Listen, that I haven't seen many drives like that, if any. I mean, Barrett, maybe you were part of them when you play, but 17 plays just took almost 8 minutes off the clock. They just took the air out of the ball. And you mentioned the 8 straight runs. It was 13.
It's a undefeated Monday here on Birds 365 as we chat up the 5-0 Birds after a successful trip out to the desert and a victory over the Arizona Cardinals. Here to help us look back at what happened yesterday and, yes, start the look ahead to Sunday and Cowboy Week is our buddy from Sports Illustrated, the Eagle Maven, Ed Kracz. EK!
Hey.
How nice was it just to kick back and watch a game on TV yesterday?
I hated it, frankly.
Really?
I'd much rather be there, but I had a family situation. My son was moving to California on Saturday, and my wife, I didn't want her to, be a basket case all by herself. So I stuck around to hold her hand and spend a little time with the boy.
Good for the Kracz family. But watching it at home, you would have rather been there.
Oh, yeah.
How nervous were you when Danny Amendola trotted out onto the field?
It was Matt Amendola. Danny Amendola was the receiver.
What I say,
yeah.
Danny? My bad.
The receiver.
Yeah. He's a kid from North Penn High School out in the suburbs of Philadelphia, which I didn't really realize until this week. I thought he was going to make that kick. I mean, listen, an average kicker makes a 43-yard field goal, right? I mean, It's pretty cut and dried in most cases. And he just, for whatever reason, he just pulled that thing right. And, teams that have Super Bowl aspirations, like I think we can say the Eagles have now, need some of these kinds of games to go their way, and they got one.
What do you think as far as, them abandoning the run like they did for probably 2.5, quarters of the game?
Yeah, I didn't really think much of the coaching in yesterday's game. I think it left a lot to be desired. I mean, how does A.J. Brown not catch more than 3 passes, and all of them on the first drive? I mean, that right. And then you mentioned the running game, Barrett. I mean, they did get away from it. And Trey Sermon only had 3 snaps, I think it was. And this was a kid last week. He popped off 2 runs for 19 yards. And I don't know why you don't get him more involved. Let's see what he can do.
Big back, too.
Big back, yeah. When you're struggling for yards, maybe you mix it up a little bit and let him carry the ball a few more times. Kenny Gainwell only had 3 carries, and I'm not sure why they got away from it. It was a mistake. I didn't like the screen. I mean, they just screened past everything. They just tried to throw to the outside and, make plays on the edge. And, sometimes it worked. A lot of times it didn't. And it almost got Devonta Smith killed a few times. I mean, he took some pops when he caught that ball. So, I would have liked to have seen more attention to the run. As it was, they still ran it, I think, 33 times, which was a high number for, but 13 of those came on that final drive, which was an amazing drive. But they needed to do it more, no doubt.
I'm not sure, but I thought I heard Merrill Reese say, and screen pass to Jalen Reagor, because they were leaning on it as much as they were. Which, by the way, earlier in the day, Reagor scored a touchdown.
Oh, did
he?
I
can't believe it. He got a TD yesterday on a shovel pass.
Good for him.
It was a weird day for the Eagles on the play calling. I think we can all agree on that. But, and I'm going to fight both of you guys off, when they needed to. 8 consecutive running plays.
Yeah.
7 minutes left in the game. They got back to it. When it had to be delivered, they delivered it. They played the trump card. We can still run it on you when we need to, and they did. So even though we all kind of sit here and go, what happened to the running game for the second, third, and fourth? In the fourth quarter, they were able to just dominate the line and dictate how the game was going to finish. That's got to make Nick Sirianni feel pretty good, Eddie.
Listen, I haven't seen many drives like that, if any. I mean, Barrett, maybe you were part of them when you play, but 17 plays just took almost 8 minutes off the clock. They just took the air out of the ball. And you mentioned the 8 straight runs. It was 13 runs of those 17 plays were running plays for 56 yards. Just an amazing drive, really. Now, it would have been better had they been able to finish it and put it in the end zone and go up 7. But listen, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. I know Jalen Hurts sounded like he was kicking himself for not finishing that drive. You get the field goal, and he said afterward that he compared it to, I think it was the championship game when he was in college against Clemson, where Alabama scores late, but Clemson gets the ball back and they go down to win the game and the national title. And that's kind of how he felt in the moment was, we left a touchdown out there. It was only a field goal. So he was kind of kicking himself a little bit, I think. You do need to finish it. But, man, that drive, I mean, what can you say? I mean, that's probably – that doesn't come along very often, a 17-play, 8-minute drive.
Exactly, and I didn't quite understand why you wouldn't run the ball as consistently as you wanted to when you have two guys that are not necessarily starters playing, with Opeta and Driscoll in there, and then when you're passing the ball as much as they did, you're just not putting them in a great position to be successful.
Yeah, listen, I'll say this about Opeta. I mean, I wasn't that big of a fan of his. I thought he was a little inconsistent in the times that he played these last couple of years. He's an undrafted free agent from, I think, Weber State. But these last two games, he's really stepped up big time. I mean, he filled in last week for Siamalu when he went out in the fourth quarter with an ankle injury. So he comes in and plays right guard for, I think, 20 snaps. This week he comes in and plays like almost 50% of the 73 snaps that were available when Landon Dickerson kind of limped out with a lower leg injury, came back, and then had to leave again. But, Opeta did a nice job. And I know Jack Driscoll, having gotten those first-team reps this week, probably was better this week than he was when he had to come into the game last week when Jordan Mailata hurt his shoulder. But, again, I think Sua Opeta, he really has showed me something these last 2 weeks by being that super reserve on that offensive line, a role that Nate Herbig filled before he got cut and went to the Jets. So, I agree with you, though, Barrett. I think when you have a kind of a reshuffled line,
you got to run the ball.
You got to run right.
Yep.
I mean, that's what linemen like to do. And if you're coming in cold off the bench, run the ball. And, they didn't do it enough, I don't think. But 33 runs does sound like a lot. I know 13 of them came in the fourth, but they had 50 against the Jaguars, which is incredible. But, I think you need to increase your run volume a little bit there, especially with the reconstructed line.
Last thing on the Cardinal game yesterday, and then we want to move on to the Cowboys look ahead to the all-important game on Sunday. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, if you didn't catch the first segment, I really questioned, A, the Cardinals, but B, more so Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts ran it 15 times yesterday. Kyler Murray ran it 4. And on the biggest play of the game, he goes sliding short of a first down rather than making sure he gets the first down. And I comped Kyler Murray to Donovan McNabb from many years ago when Donovan came out and said, I'm a quarterback. I'm not a running quarterback. I'm a quarterback. And he almost took the running aspect out of his game. And I thought that was a mistake when Donovan did it. And if that's what Kyler Murray is doing now, I think it's a mistake on his part too. You have a weapon. Use it. Same as Jalen Hurts here with the Eagles. He can make plays with his legs, break big runs, moving his sticks up and down the field. If you've got that in your arsenal, you should use it. And I think Kyler Murray's afraid of using it or is making a point to not use it. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, do you sit him down today and say, Kyler, we need you to run the football? That's part of our offense. We need you when a play breaks down and you're avoiding the rush and you see green grass and high tides in front of you, take off. Do you think the Cardinal coach has enough nerve to do that?
That's a great song, Green Grass and High Tides.
Thanks for picking up on that reference.
Yeah. I got that, man. I listened to that a lot in college.
You and I both.
Listen, I'm kind of split on the whole quarterback running thing. I mean, I don't like exposing my quarterback to the hits. Like I know Jalen, he's got to be feeling, these hits. It's going to be an accumulation of hits, I think, as the year goes on. And you hope he's still fresh in November and December after taking some hits. But I don't really like my quarterback to run. I know it's part of the skill set and all that. I think you have to pick your spots. And, Murray probably needs to run more. I don't know what his size is. Like, Hurts is a big guy. He's like 6'1", 220. He's like a running back playing quarterback. So, he can take some hits. I'm not sure if Murray can, and I'm not sure Kingsbury wants him to, but I would run him a more short. And especially yesterday when, Arizona's out of running backs, right? I mean, the one guy, I can't remember his name, James Conner.
James Conner went down. He was running well until he went down, too.
He was on a 100-yard pace. I mean, he was tough to bring down. So he goes out. They lost another running back. So they were down to Eno Benjamin and Kyler Murray at the end of the game. And yeah, you probably need to use Murray more if you're down to that kind of running back room. And that, that 3rd and 1, that slide that he made that set up the 3rd and 1, and then he spikes it. I mean, I don't know where you spot the ball when a quarterback starts his slide. Like I thought he had the first down, and then you look and the ball's like way back where
right
started his slide. I thought he had it too. And I'm sure the Cardinals thought that, and reports out of State Farm Stadium were that on the scoreboard they showed 1st and 10. So, if you're the coach and you're looking up at that, you say, okay, we got the first down. And then someone tells you, oh no, it's 3rd and 4th and 1 now after we spiked it. So you had to kick. But yeah, that was a weird spot. I don't know how the rule on that, where you spot it. I know it's where the slide starts, but how do you determine that? At full speed, I don't know. It was a bad mistake. He looked like he could have gained another few yards and made sure that he had the first down, but he just went into his slide too early, I guess.
And that's why I want Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. He just makes sounder decisions than Kyler Murray. But just looking at defensively, and I was discussing with Jody that the mush rush is a lot of the reason why we didn't have a lot of the sack that we that you would think we would have against that offensive line when the left side was hurt or injured or wasn't up to full strength. I just thought it was a culmination of how they called the defense as opposed to athletic talent or them getting beat. They just didn't want to rush him that way, and it kind of kept him within the framework of the offense doing it that way. What was your perception of that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this defense was special the last 2 weeks, right? 9 sacks against Washington, 5 forced turnovers against Jacksonville. 3 straight Defensive Player of the Week awards. I think that streak ends. Didn't see anything real special from the defense. They did what they had to do, though, and they sacked, I think, one time. I think they sacked Murray once. I think it was Hassan Reddick, big sack right near midfield on a 3rd down play. So that was very timely sack, and Reddick does that stuff, man. He shows up when the game grows old and makes plays. But I would have liked to have seen, I know the mush rush, whatever you want to call it, I would have liked to have seen more pressure on Murray. I would have liked to have seen, maybe a little more blitzing to put him under pressure. But he did get the ball out pretty quick, and he exploited the middle of the field pretty well. There were some open guys over the middle of the field that he was able to find. And, I don't know who's to blame on that, whether it's a linebacker or the slot corner, Josiah Scott. I thought Scott played pretty well on defense. We had 2 tackles for loss, filling in again for Avonte Maddox. So, whatever the defense was, I guess, it was a winning effort, but I would have liked to have seen more pressure on Murray and a few more sacks. I love sacks. I'm always going to root for the sack.
You and I are sack guys.
That's a hard guy to sack, though, man.
You're
that's
right.
a hard guy to sack.
Yeah, he is. And they did a good job pursuing him to the sidelines and forcing him to, throw the ball away or, whatever, try to run. But they did a good job pushing him outside, too, to get him on the move.
Our pal John McMullen gives more props to the pressures and the hits. Yeah, Eddie and I like the sacks.
Yeah,
tell me you finished the play. Tell me you got home. That's what I want to know. Yep. And by the way, I just looked it up quickly. Kyler Murray, all 16 games as a rookie, all 16 games his second year. Last year, ankle sprain cost him 3 games. Yeah. That's not because he took a hit as much as he just I'm trying to remember the play. I don't remember it. It might have been a running play or it might not have.
Yeah, I get it. You could get hurt in the pocket just probably more so than out, in the open field trying to run. We saw Hurts get hurt in the pocket
Jalen last year,
against the Giants and missed the game and wasn't the same really in the home stretch. And that's one of your fears. Look, I know staying in the pocket, but even getting outside the pocket and trying to run, you can take a hit. And with the way the concussion protocols are now, after seeing what happened with Tua, they're going to be a little quicker to hit that panic button and say, no, you can't go back in. So, you get up a little bit wobbly, you're done for the day. So, you have to be cognizant of that, and rightfully so. I mean, these concussions are a big issue, but still, that's one thing you're open to when you're running the ball is taking those big shots.
By the way, injuries, injured quarterbacks. There's one on the Dallas Cowboys who may be ready to play by Sunday night's game. We will get more information as the week gets on. Ed'll be talking to his Cowboy compatriots to see exactly where Dak is at. If it was the Eagles, we would know. We'd get no information because Nick Sirianni loves that competitive advantage.
Yes,
don't show your hand to anybody.
Yep.
Jerry Jones a little bit more braggadocious, so he might be able to get more information out of him. How's it's going to play on Sunday night, Ed? If Dak Prescott is good to go, is he back in as the Cowboys starting quarterback, or are you benching a QB who's just gone 4-0 for Dallas?
Yeah, man, I tell you, I know Dak's getting paid, the buku bucks to be the franchise quarterback.
Right.
So they're probably going to go to him if he's healthy. You're not going to pay him, mega millions to sit on the bench and hold a clipboard when he's healthy. So I have to think that he's going to be, back in there if he's healthy, 100%, maybe 110%. Now you can play with that extra 10% because you have a backup that's gone in won games. But listen, I'm also of the school of if you're hot, man, and you're winning, you don't mess with the winning streak, right? Isn't that what they said in Bull Durham?
Exactly.
You don't mess with the winning streak. You keep doing what you're doing, and you eat the same food, you wear the same underwear, whatever the superstitions are, you do it, right? So if you're winning with Cooper Rush,
Gotta keep that juju.
Yeah, keep the juju, man. He only completed 10 passes against the Rams yesterday. I mean, they just ran Zeke into the ground. We'll see how fresh Zeke is coming off whatever 20-plus carry day he had in that win over LA. But man, I wouldn't screw with the mojo. But again, Jerry Jones is the one writing the big check to Dak Prescott, and if he's ready, I think he's playing.
So do I. I don't think there's any way he's carrying a clipboard on Sunday.
Exactly. I mean, you see what he's doing to Zeke right now. Zeke shouldn't even be on the field. Pollard should be playing every single rep. But, hey, at this point, Zeke is making more money, so he's playing Zeke. So, yeah. I mean, that plays into our favor, though. I mean, if they go ahead and play Dak, I think that'll be a decided advantage for us simply because, you hit that hand, he's not going to be ready to play at a high level, after being off this long anyway. So it might work to our advantage.
Right.
Eddie, they got to give the Cowboys defense some credit too. 5 games, they have not given up more than 20 points in any individual game. They just completely took the Rams out of their offensive game yesterday, including turnovers and scoops and scores. It's probably. Would you say this is the best defense the Eagles have faced this year come Sunday?
Yeah, I would say so. Sure. I mean, just based on the numbers you threw out there, yeah, I think it's the best defense. And man, Micah Parsons, boy, he's a handful to block. And Melee Cooker, the safety they signed, he's had battled injuries when he was with the Colts. He stepped in at that safety spot and has played well. He had a pick yesterday of Stafford, but that DeMarcus Lawrence, he gets after you on the other side. I mean, this is a defense that can threaten the quarterback. Now, that's where Hurts' skill set obviously will come in handy. But, Hurts hasn't played well against the Cowboys. The Eagles haven't played well against the Cowboys the last couple of years. Dallas has kind of had their numbers. So, they're coming in here with a lot of confidence. The Eagles have that big target on their back. And when you talk about injuries, and with this defensive front that the Cowboys have that can get after the quarterback, you better hope Jordan Mailata can answer the bell. I know, Jack Driscoll's done a fine job, but again, Mailata's getting the big money. And, he seemed optimistic that he was day to day when we talked to him in the locker room. I think it was Thursday last week, that he was not going to miss much time. So you hope that he's ready to go. And you hope the Eagles don't say, okay, well, you know what? We have a bye coming out of this game. Let's give that shoulder a little extra time. Jack's playing pretty well. I think you need Mailata out there against this defensive front. That increases your chances of keeping Hurts a little bit more upright.
Yes.
Yeah, and you hope Kelsey. I mean, listen, Kelsey, he said he was going to have an MRI, I think, didn't he, after the game?
Yes.
I thought I heard, on his ankle. He thinks it's a lower ankle sprain. I mean, he's just tough as nails, that guy. I mean, he just taped it up. He said, nice, big, thick tape job when he went to the sidelines, only missed 3 snaps. But again, who knows? I know he's going to battle and do everything he can to make that 128th straight start. But we'll see what the MRI says. But you need him out there. I mean, Cam Jurgens looked good in the summer in training camp, but this isn't he didn't play the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football with a 5-0 record. A little different coming in now than it is in August against the, Miami Dolphins. So I don't know. I just think that the Eagles need to be healthy on that offensive line going into this one because the Dallas defense can really give you headaches.
I can't
Let
wait,
me
man.
let me ask you about Sirianni's preparation for the game this week against Dallas. Last year, when these two teams met, the Cowboys won by a combined score of 92-46.
Oof, I'm writing that down.
92-46. That's an official double up, Eddie Kracz.
Yeah, I'm writing it
That's
down,
not
Jody.
close. Now, I know the second game was Cowboys starter against the Eagles JV, which really wasn't fair. But that's the way the Eagles chose to play it because they had nothing to win by winning the game. Does he use that? That you realize that we're playing a team that crushed us twice last year. Didn't beat us twice. Crushed us twice last year. Does Sirianni go down that road for motivational purposes?
Well, the Beat Dallas T-shirt that he wore, last year before the
How'd
game
that work?
didn't help out at all.
No,
Right?
not really.
46. Yeah. So maybe it's time to shift gears and lose that shirt. Keep that one in the hamper this week.
Right. I remember that. That's bulletin board material. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I guess he knows now. I'm glad you brought that up. You're absolutely right. The pandering has to stop now.
Yeah, I don't mind the I like it. He wore the Phillies, that nice powder blue Phillies shirt.
that was nice.
The panderer in chief was back again yesterday.
Yeah, I don't mind that, man. Players like when you wear their brand, right? I mean, it's a good thing. Players love to see that. I like the Pave the Lane shirt. That's a good one. Maybe you dust that one off this week and bring it. Because this offensive line is going to have to get the job done against this defense of Dallas.
They got to win it.
They got to win that line of scrimmage. So, maybe you break out all the offensive line shirts. He loves to talk about Mount Union and, his IUP and all his college days. Maybe he brings out a throwback from Mount Union or something. I don't know. Break it up somehow. But, yeah, Jody, to answer your question, I think, yes, he has to use this as motivation. He's a motivational, connect, fiery dude, man. He's going to use everything he can to get this team ready to play in 92-46. Maybe he gets a T-shirt made that says 92-46.
Oh,
that would be pretty sweet.
I did the math. I don't want that on my plate. I just do a little math there on Bird 365. Didn't mean to shine too big a light on the combined score of last year's two games. No. My bad. Forget that I said that. Let's edit this tape now and not bring up the fact that it was 92-46 in the two games.
No, we need to say that. I'm glad you brought that back. We need that.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a great motivational tool. If you're Nick Sirianni, I probably mentioned that all week long. 92-46. I mean,
that was the combined score. Ed, one more quick question on the D line. Yesterday, Hassan Reddick had a great sack, great play, just power drove an offensive lineman that he was probably given 60 pounds to back into the quarterback's lap and then sidestepped him and took Kyler Murray down pretty easily.
Yeah,
but that was it. They had one sack. They had a couple of plays where Murray jumped out of the pocket and made a runaround type hectic play. But they didn't have near as much pressure as they had in previous games. Certainly not like the Commander game where they got as many sacks as they did.
Right.
Give credit to Cardinal offensive line, better than maybe what people projected before the year that they started. Give credit to Murray for his ability to avoid the rush. Or question what the hell happened, Jonathan Gannon. No, you like to just come with 4, but at some point, see, here's my knock on Gannon. And I really like Gannon. There are Gannon haters out there. There are Gannon devotees like your pal, John McMullen. Here's the one thing that Gannon doesn't do enough of for me. He doesn't change tactics in midstream. If he's coming into a game saying we're not blitzing, then he doesn't blitz the whole game. Even when he's not getting there, not creating any pressure, he doesn't go, all right, well, maybe we better blitz. He just doesn't seem as good a counterpuncher as some other defensive coordinators. Is that a fair criticism on my part?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure he doesn't make some kind of adjustments in game.
Okay.
I'd have to think about when, though. I can't think off the top of my head when he might have done that. Maybe Barrett can. But I think Barrett touched on it a little bit. They used that mush rush scheme where they wanted to try to contain Kyler Murray in the pocket and make him make plays. And he did for the most part. I mean, he had this team a 43-yard field goal away from going into overtime. They overcame a 14-0 deficit. But maybe that was part of the scheme, and he liked the way it was going. They weren't getting beat for the deep play, which he doesn't like giving up those those explosive plays. But I had to look at the snap count this morning to see if Fletcher Cox played. I mean, he didn't seem very visible at all. I don't think he showed up on the stat sheet with any tackles or anything like that. And he played more snaps than any defensive lineman on the field. Javon Hargrave, I thought, showed up a little bit, but Brandon Graham, he played 33 snaps, which was an increase from previous weeks. And I don't think he did anything either. Maybe their job was just kind of contain and try to push the middle of that pocket if you're Fletcher Cox. But, Jordan Davis, to me, looks like, you should give this kid a bigger role. I mean, he's making plays. He had 3 unassisted tackles, and, he's just folding guys in half on that offensive line to get in the backfield. I mean, I think it's time to give him more of a run, increase his snaps. I think he played 33 of them, maybe. I wrote it down.
Yeah, I think the most he's ever played yesterday.
Yeah, it was a career high, 29. He played 29 snaps, which was more than he's played all year. So, hopefully he can build on that, because I think he's ready for a bigger role. You'd like to see him maybe try to be out there on passing downs to push that pocket forward. I don't think he plays much on passing downs. He's more of a run down guy, but I'd like to see that role change a little bit. But I think the defensive line maybe did what it had to do with what Gannon was asking them to do yesterday. And I didn't see any adjustments from Gannon yesterday, but I'm sure he's made some in previous games in game. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the tape, as they like to say.
Right. Well, last drive he did. He let him go. He said, "Hey, go." But then they beat him a couple times with him getting out of the pocket. So and they called 2 run plays that actually helped him beat him also. So that's tough.
Yeah, it wasn't that the drive, that last drive where Ertz was wide open. Zach Ertz is wide open and
overthrew him.
Airmails it. Yeah, I mean, that would have been a big play early in that drive that would have, set him up on the plus side of the field, and maybe they can drive it down for a touchdown, if not an easier field goal, than 43 yards to tie it. So you're right. They let him go, and the Cards were able to make some plays, and then Murray overthrows Ertz down the field deep.
And I put Ertz kind of on a pedestal before the game started. I said, don't be surprised if Ertz out yardages Goddard, because I thought the Eagles were going to have trouble covering Ertz. I said they both get theirs, because the Cardinals aren't great at covering the tight end either. But the difference between Ertz and Goddard is yards after catch.
Yeah.
And you're right. They airmailed that one. Ertz might have actually been able to get some yards after catch because he was behind the DB, and his quarterback did him no favors. No. But Dallas Goedert and his ability to not only make the catch, but turn it upfield, either make a guy miss and or make him pay on a tackle. That's why Dallas Goedert has jumped into the top tight ends in the National Football League, top 3, because he's as good at yard after catch as there is as a tight end in the NFL, Eddie.
And the Eagles know it, and I think they like to use him a lot in the screen game. We see him catch those short passes out wide, and he's able to chug and pick up a first down. But that catch he made on that drive we were talking about, that long end of the game drive there, that huge catch, 3rd and 11, right? He gets open for a 16-yard gain, and that was a check. Jalen Hurts had to check down. He said he had to check out of a play that was called to make that play happen. But Goddard is definitely, the number 1 tight end above Ertz. I mean, he might have caught that ball deep, and maybe got some yards after the catch, like maybe 3 or 4 yards. I don't think any more than that. He's very lumbering. He's very slow at this point. But we had Zach Ertz on earlier. He talked to the Philly media a week ago, and he was asked if he can become the first tight end to go over 100 yards in a single game since 1989 for the Cardinals. 33 years the Cardinals.
Really?
Yeah. And I'll ask you who you think it was. You'll never get it. It's a journey. Look it up.
I would go to Jackie Smith before he went to the Cowboys and dropped a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl.
It's a good guess. It was Rob Awalt. If you ever heard of him. You know him?
Rob Awalt? You just made that up.
No,
no such player. You're shitting us.
Nope. Honest, look it up. He played 7 years, 3 different teams. But he was the last tight end to go over 100 yards in a game for the Cardinals in 1989. So Ertz is asked a week ago, can you be, the first tight end to do it? And then he just said yes. And then there was a long pause, and then he said, and I plan on doing it soon. It was almost like a veiled threat, like I'm coming for the Eagles. I'm going to do it this week against my old team. But it never happened. He made a few catches, inconsequential, never happened.
I would say more than inconsequential, but if you don't get halfway to 100, you don't get credit for 100. That's damn sure, and he didn't get to 50. Yeah. Eddie, great stuff. Appreciate it, bud. We'll get you on again next week. Hopefully your son got off to Cali.
He did.
Just fine. We'll talk to you next week, bud.
All right, guys.
Have a good one. Yep.